Hi, David.
Hi, Neka.
I hope all is going well on your side.
Pretty
Yeah,
good. Pretty good. Yeah,
pretty good.
pretty good. Yeah, I mean, considering everything that we're going through, I'm grateful, for opportunities such as this. I'm still able to create. It's definitely a challenge. It's interesting. I was watching this little segment on Instagram, and another creator was talking about how the pandemic has challenged him to create in different ways,
Uh-huh.
which is very, very true. Like it's normally wouldn't create in such a fashion with everything that's going on in the world. Yeah, it's okay. We're going through this phase of life. Let's take advantage of it. So it hasn't stopped me from creating. It's just sort of shifted how I've created, and I think in a good way, and being a little bit more reflective on ideas and why I create, what am I creating for, and sort of that thing. So yeah, I'm good.
Thank you for joining me today in this conversation during your Instagram residency with us. And so this week you're sharing your work, and not only your work, your thought about
Yes.
topics and ideas that matter a great deal to you and to us. I mean, you talk about you talk about systemic oppression, discrimination, but not only, you also talk about self-love, and I think that's really important, and the notion of freedom. With all that in mind, I just wanted to go a bit deeper, dig a little bit deeper in your practice and your creative process. But
For sure.
before we begin, like you did, I'd like to take the time to reflect as well on how lucky we are under these circumstances to be safe and to be healthy, and also how grateful we are as a team, and I am to the people and the relationships that we're building here on this land. I'm talking to you from Limagier, which is located on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. And you're joining me from, well, actually a few houses down.
Exactly.
You're,
Exactly.
you're
We're
in
neighbors.
yeah, you're in fact a next door neighbor. But even though, I'd like to recognize this shared connection, and then really insist on the importance of openness and care for each other.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
so we can begin this conversation.
For sure. For sure. Thank you for doing that.
So you introduce yourself as a photographer in fashion, documentary, and fine art, and so therefore you surely understand the power of images. Could you tell us more about what attracted you to this medium that is photography, and when did you first grab a camera to express yourself?
So a short little bio about me. So I've been a creator since I was young, very, very young, and I was fortunate enough that my mother encouraged my creativity, from writing to drawing. I wanted to be a writer at one point, and I wanted to be an animator, and I really, really pushed to become an animator, doing cartoons. I used to draw a lot, and I had the opportunity to go to Algonquin here in Ottawa, and I took their 3D animation course. And during that process, I was introduced to photography from a friend that was taking arts at Ottawa U. And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Hey, do you wanna learn about photography?" I was like, "Sure, why not?" And so we went down to Bank Street, picked up a 35 millimeter camera. It was a Canon. I can't remember the model. And he basically took me around the city, told me how to put the film in. And from that point on, I like literally fell in love with the medium. And so I've always been taking pictures since that point. And to the point where I've kind of like pushed animation to the side, like my childhood dream.
Mm-hmm.
And this has become my dream and my passion, because it's such a powerful medium of expression. And I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed learning about it. I enjoyed the difficulties about it. And it's something that is easily shared to other people. Just not only teaching somebody how to take a good photo, but also giving a photo, and
Mm-hmm.
just that connection it has with people. And from that point on, I was like all in when it came to photography, wanted to get my studio going, and it's just been a journey, and a good journey from there.
Mm-hmm. So I understand you work in analog photography, but do you work both analog and digital, or what's your do you have a preference?
So I do both. So I started off with analog, so film.
Okay.
And I kind of like progressed into digital. So after my Canon camera, I got a Minolta XTI, which is kind of like a DSLR at that point.
Yep.
And I had a bunch of lenses. I was looking to do, like I said, I was looking to have my own photography studio. I think I named it was Dunbar Photography at that point. I was working out of my spare room in the place that I was living. And then I slowly shifted to digital because as society was shifting to digital, it was less expensive, easier to sort of maintain and from a business standpoint. And so I switched to digital and I got my first digital SLR, which was the Sony A100. And the reason I went with the Sony is because Sony have bought out Minolta. And so any of the lenses that were from 85 on up were compatible with Sony's digital SLR. And I was like, well, this is a perfect fit for me. So I already had, at that point, I think I had like 4 lenses. Yeah, and then I switched over to digital. Then I slowly switched into Canon, back to Canon. And now I do both. I still love the nostalgia of film, the texture of it, even the smell of the rolls, and even that beautiful click when you wind to the next shot. And I also find that it allows me to slow down, think about the process a little bit more. I found that with digital, it's too easy, and you can miss, and you're just kind of like snapping away, and you can take for granted some of the things, whereas film, you have to think a little bit more. You're like, okay, where's the light coming from? You look at your surroundings a little bit more, and you're like, okay, can I shoot here? Can I shoot there? I mean, you do that with digital as well, but I find that you do it a little bit more with film.
Yeah, you can't really afford to miss your shot like with analog.
Exactly. It's pretty expensive if you do this.
Exactly.
And especially if you're doing like corporate work, where you got to make sure that you're on point. So that you get the right shot at the right time. Most people don't really like doing their weddings over, so you want to make sure that you get it right.
Well, I'm a huge fan of analog. I have an enlarger at home. I just haven't set it up yet. I don't have my black room yet, but yeah, so I can relate to everything that you're saying.
Yes, well, I am looking to set up a dark room here in the house this summer. So
okay,
so
maybe
we'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll talk, neighbor.
As we're talking about processes, I would also like to point out that, well, the importance of writings in your practice. You briefly mentioned it, how your mother kind of presented that to you as well, and specifically the role of poetry. So where does the need or the choice, and I think here you'll be able to confirm which one it is, so where does the need or the choice to add words to your photographs come about? What do you think words can say that images can't?
That's a very good question. One, I love words because it's a language in itself, and it's how we communicate, whether it's French, whether it's Spanish, whether it's English, whether it's broken English. And I find that if I'm trying to convey a message, words help to signify that message very clearly. Whereas an image, you can look at an image and it can be misinterpreted, but adding words to images just sort of narrows that doubt in somebody's mind of like, oh, well, I wonder what he was trying to say here. Whereas I can tell you what I was trying to say in putting it in words. And then as far as poetry is just like so romantic, and it just flows. It's a feeling, it's like a good song. You read a poem or you hear somebody recite a poem, and it's just like a very good song, and it sticks with you and it makes you feel a certain way. And that's the other reason I love photography, is because I can inspire, I can empower, I can make people feel things through words and imagery, whether that's very shocking and jarring, where you could just like maybe make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, which I think is fine, but also make you feel happy and joyful and sentimental. And I'm a very sentimental person, so yeah, I definitely love words with photos for sure.
As I'm getting to know you better, and I understand that you work work a lot according to encounters that you make, and also the places you where you live or where you lived in the past. I mean, you're a Chicago-raised photographer who also lived in Mexico, in Ottawa. I'm probably missing other places, but then now in Elmer. So my question is, when you're portraying all those experiences, how would you describe your relationship with your models, but also those special places? If you set aside commission work, what inspires you, or what do you look for in the images that you produce?
So yeah, I've been quite a few places, and the list will continue to grow as things kind of like get back to the sense of normalcy, and I can travel some more. First time I traveled, I was like 7 years old. I was on a plane by myself, and that was how I landed in Chicago and to live with my family there. And I think from that point on, it's just been a way of just coming into a new atmosphere and exploring, having that sense of fear of the unknown, but like tackling that and testing yourself. So like living in different places, specifically like going to Mexico, not knowing the language right off the bat, not knowing anybody down there, was a great test to myself and what I can do, what I can accomplish. I mean, it got me out of my shell, got me away from the cold. It did so many things for me. With those encounters and with those connections, I always come in with an open mind. I always come in with love. I don't come in with any sort of expectations. And whatever it is that I see it through my eyes, and I see it through my lens. I always try to put my spin on it, because obviously there's things that have been photographed, many times over, but I always come into a setting or come to a person and try and capture their soul through images. Like if I'm dealing with a model, it's always with love and respect, and and get their true essence. Like I want their essence to be a part of that photo or that experience, because at the end of the day, I may be the photographer and I may be somewhat in control of the direction of what I see, but it's collaborative. We'll talk, we'll communicate, make that person feel comfortable, because I want them to be at their best self. I want them to see their true self, and maybe see something that they never saw before.
I hear a lot of bravery, if I can say that, like someone who likes to take risk, I think.
Yeah.
Very curious. Yeah, and that what makes your work so strong is exactly that. It's also the fact that where you embody your struggles that you fight for. We talked about social justice, discrimination, oppression. I mean, you shared with us a series of self-portraits where you kind of allowed the viewer to put a face on what that reality may be for Black communities, denouncing systemic oppression and how important it is to look for social justice. I wonder, what does that mean nowadays to be a Black American artist with dual nationality? I'm referring here to your, Caribbean, Jamaican heritage, and may I add, living in Elmer, Quebec. Yeah, because
gotta put that on there.
I know, because I mentioned you're our neighbor, and so I'm just curious to know how do you relate to the places where you live in? Do you work on fitting in each time, or as a lot of photographer, do you consider yourself a bit more like an observer, of the situation?
Yeah, well, I always come into any sort of room or place or city or country as an observer. I humble myself. I was always taught that, be mindful of the energy that you bring into any room, and that always stays with me. I think that's a good way of connecting with people, because at the end of the day, I'm not just thinking about myself. I'm thinking about where I am, the surroundings, and it's allowed for me to explore even more and get, I think, more in depth with the places that I've gone. And I can definitely fit in. Like, I can definitely sort of, quote unquote, play the part, because I can come to any room and adapt and just make people feel good. And, that's what I try and bring. But I'm definitely an observer. It allows me to kind of think, contemplate, watch. I like watching people, their mannerisms, the things that they say, the things that they do. That it's a beautiful thing to watch people sort of interact. For me, that it fuels my creativity.
Yeah,
like it allows me to create even more, because most of my subjects are people, and so I like to see how they sort of respond to, everyday things. And it'd be great to, be able to sit down at a coffee shop and start watching people again, and be able to create and connect. And through my travels, most of some of the people and friends that I have been met through coffee shops, which is really interesting. From like here in not in Elmer yet, but in Ottawa, but also in Mexico. Some of my good friends that I still talk to today, one of my friends had a coffee shop, and I was there frequently, and I met so many different people and so many different walks of life. But yeah, I'm definitely an observer.
It may be part of a culture as well. I
I
mean,
think so.
as a French person, I know that the coffee culture, the coffee shop culture also is.
Yeah, for sure. I love the coffee culture. I mean, I want to have my own branded coffee someday. Hopefully that'll come to life.
In one of your publications, you talk about the cardinal role of Black women in your life and your desire to empower them in your work. So from your mother down to your aunts, as you say yourself, how have their teachings related to, independence, respect, hard work, all those notions, even love? How have they influenced you? How do you advocate for Black women empowerment through your work?
Very good question. Yeah, they've played a very pivotal role in the individual that you're looking at right now. Obviously, my mother, probably the strongest woman that I know, just through the things and stuff that she's gone through, but also the things that she's taught me. Her toughness. She doesn't take any BS, even from me when I was little. Very stern but fair. And and she was a nurturer. She was a nurse. She still is a nurse. She does more home care now than working in a hospital or whatever. And then my other aunt, she was a teacher, and my other aunt, she did specialty needs like care. I don't know the exact term for that, but through the three of them, they taught me to respect yourself. The appreciation of hard work, and that it pays off, and being very independent and being able to love freely. It really helped. It really helped me as a male, because I'm independent. I can take care of myself. I don't need somebody to do certain things for me. They taught me everything that I need to know, from washing, cooking, cleaning, sewing, baking. I can remember when I was little baking banana bread with my mom with my Sesame Street book. Those little things like that, and it instilled empathy in me, which I think is key for a man. I mean, I obviously need to be strong and in a sense powerful, but like I think having sort of that sense of vulnerability allowed me to show compassion where it needs be. I can do that, and it shows in my work. So I'm compassionate with the people that I shoot and the people that I interact with.
Yeah, exactly. It translates in the way, in your practice, the way you interact with models and people in general, for sure.
Exactly. And if you can see, there's a very maybe sharp but soft touch to them, and like how they're presented in my images. Like they're not trophies, if I should say. You know what I mean? Like it's not something like, oh, let me place you this way, this way. No, there's care and love in the way that they're posed and how they're presented, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a straightforward question, but what is community to you? You've been involved in various projects, whether from being commissioned to document Carleton University's Legacy Project in 2020, which was part of their Black History Month.
Yes.
Or if I'm thinking as well of your series on the group of Black artists you call Kings of Hope, who were commissioned to paint a mural in Ottawa, as I believe, during the early days of pandemic. So my question is, what is community to you, and how does the element of dialogue and exchange with the community come into play in your practice?
Community is very, very dear to me. It's a way of feeling connected to a mass group of people. And community doesn't all have to be of same likeness. Community is, like your neighbor, having appreciation for their differences as well as their similarities. Community, I think, is very, very powerful in leading sort of the next generation. Without community, I think I would be nothing, because they uplift me, they empower me, they help me, they make me stronger. My grandmother was a big component of community, and like she would feed the block. There's this old saying, I don't know if it's a Jamaican saying, but my mom and my grandmother used to say it all the time. I might butcher it, but it was a community raises a child. Remember, I don't know if you've heard it before.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you mean. It's, you know, when you're a family, community is part of the family raising your kid as well. Like it's
Exactly,
a group
right?
effort. Yeah.
Right. So like you go out in the street, you know that you have to be on your A's and Q's,
Yeah.
because you know your neighbors are
Yeah.
watching and they're gonna
Yeah.
tell. And I think community is holding people accountable,
Yeah.
and you know not letting people fall short of their greatness. I was talking to my roommate Juliette, and I had saw this post, and it's an African tradition. I don't remember where in Africa, but there was their community. If somebody did something bad, they would all come together and they would say positive things about that person, because they wouldn't harp on the negative thing that person did, because they know at that time that person wasn't their true self, but they wanted to, how do you say this? They wanted to
Yeah.
bring you back to your natural self,
Yeah.
the goodness in you. And I thought that was so beautiful. Like that's something that, you know, we should try and implement here
It
in
is.
our
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we're always so quick to, you know, call out people when they do something negative, but
That's
we're
true.
all going through things, right? And you know,
Mhm.
in some cases, you know, we act out of our normal self, and so we need that, you know, that empathy and that love
Mm.
from our community to be like, it's okay, we got you, you know, it's all right. And just to touch on that experience with so it was Cal Cadan, Alan Andre, and Jimmy Baptiste that did the mural that they were commissioned by the BAA, and then they had sponsorship from Wallix, which was on Bank and Lisgar, just in the midsummer of the early of the pandemic. And
Okay.
just the experience that I had working with those brothers and seeing them and how they work together. They work brilliantly together and just sharing love and knowledge and education, not only amongst themselves and with me, but with the community. And just the love that the community gave them to put up this piece. And that week was hot. Like we're talking about like Cancun, Mexican hot.
Yeah, you can see that in pictures.
Oh man, it was a scorcher. It was a scorcher, but it was beautiful. And like people would come, they brought water, they brought food, they brought ideas, and you know they talked, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. And I'm grateful that I was able to capture that not only in film but video as well, which I'm trying to put together a little mini documentary of that experience that I have with that. So look out for that.
So I'm always curious to kind of pin down that very moment, you know, when you knew that you would be choosing the life of an artist, with all the compromises, the, you know, rewards and the hurt takes as well that comes with it. So now that you committed yourself to this path, it's a bit of a tricky question, really, but I do like asking this.
I like a challenge.
What would you tell your old self, or you know, an aspiring artist about, you know, choosing this path?
I would say stick with your gut. Path was up and down. Like I've gone in and out of being like an artist and, you know, kind of doing the 9 to 5. I would say stick with it. You know, don't let anybody deter you from that feeling that you have inside that you know you want to be an artist. And there's going to be hard times. There's going to be hardships. But you know, lean on your community, lean on your family. And trust in yourself. I think that's the most important thing that I would tell my old self is trust in yourself, because you had it right. And so the ups and downs, they're to be expected. Don't think that they won't be there. I mean, it's going to be a challenge. You just have to brace yourself for it, and you can implement it into your work. It's a part of the process. You gotta enjoy the process. If you don't enjoy the process, then it's going to be very, very difficult. And maybe it's not for you, but yeah.
So be resilient.
Yes, very resilient.
Well, thank you very much, David, for taking the time to, you know, to share your thoughts with me. I very, very much enjoyed this moment with you, and I can only hope that this time spent together can spark some interesting conversations around us. So yeah, so until next time, you know, please continue to stay safe, stay curious, and stay in touch.
Thank you. Take care now.
All right. Bye.
Bye.